When I was starting out, I didn't know much. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I didn't know what job I wanted to have. I didn't even know how I was going to pay the bills. But one thing I was sure of was that I was different than my brother and my sister. I had an elder brother and a younger sister, and looking at them, I knew I could never be like them. I knew I could never excel at math and science like my brother did. I knew I could never have the same kind of physical self-discipline that my sister had and used to become a ballet dancer. Instead, I knew that I had different strengths, different talents. And although I was confused about a whole lot of stuff, I was just sure that the world was going to wait for me until one day I would pop out of school and get to make my unique mark on the world. And I bet you feel that way. I mean, think back to when you were in school. You knew that in school there were certain subjects that you were drawn to, certain subjects that just grabbed your attention and wouldn't let it go, certain classes where time whipped by and before you even knew it, the bell had rung, and although you wouldn't have admitted it, you kind of wanted the class to happen all over again. And if you didn't like school, then maybe there were certain situations you were drawn to, or certain people you wanted to be around, or certain times when you just knew you were at your best. And you wouldn't call those strengths, not yet anyway, but even back then, you knew you had something. You knew you had something special. And now you're holding out hope that your life, your work, your job is going to give you a chance to show everyone what that special thing is. And I've studied over the years thousands of successful people, and if you look at the world through their eyes, work can be a great place. It can be a place where you have a chance to be challenged in just the way that you like to be challenged. It can be a place where people recognize you for what you do well and then push you to get better at it. It can be a place where you get to make the kind of difference that only you can make. But I've learned something else. I've learned that only 2 out of 10 people actually get a chance to have a life like that. I've learned that only 2 out of 10 people get to play to their strengths at work most of the time. Now, the most successful people do, but only 2 out of 10 people get to experience that success. And the needle isn't moving. I do hundreds of these speeches every year to executives, and I tell them a message. I tell them how to figure out their strengths and put them to work, and they hear it, and they believe it, and they want to do it, but it's almost like they're too far down the road to do anything about it. They've got mortgages to pay, and they've got bills to think about, and they've got a growing family, and they've got a career, and they've got promotions, and it's almost like life has pushed them too far down the road, and now they don't feel like they can make a choice. Well, you'll find that. You'll find that life gets really heavy really quickly, and the longer you wait, the heavier it gets, and if you're not really careful, you're going to wind up living some second-rate version of somebody else's life. You're going to wind up in a job where you're not engaged. A job where you're just marking time, where you're just putting in the hours until the weekend comes around. A job where you're not engaged and excited, but a job where you're bored, where you're drained, where you're burned out, where you're trapped. And when that happens, you can blame someone else. You can blame your teachers or your parents or your boss or fate. You can blame someone else, but the responsibility doesn't lie there. It lies with you. It lies with what you choose to do. So the question you got to get your head around right now, is how do you avoid that future? How do you avoid becoming one of the 8 out of 10 that don't play to their strengths? How do you get to build the kind of life where you are playing to your strengths in life most of the time? How do you build that life? How do you build that kind of success? What do you need to know? And what do you need to do before it's too late? Well, here are 3 myths that are going to hold you back. Now, other people are going to tell them that they're true, but they're not. You need to expose them for myths. You need to blow them up, figure out what's true, and then stencil it to your forehead, and don't let anyone ever tell you different. Here's the first myth, and everyone believes this one's true. The myth that as you grow older, your personality changes. It's not true. Here's what's true. As you grow older, you become more and more and more of who you already are. If you're really good at making friends now, you'll be even better at it in 20 years from now. If you're a neat freak now, then you're going to be a neater freak when you're 40. If you're an idea man now, you're going to be an idea man for the rest of your life. I have a son, Jackson. Jack's 6 years old, and already I know some stuff about Jack. I know this is a kid that craves structure. This is the kid that won't close the refrigerator door unless the ketchup's turned so the label's facing out. This is the kid where as I'm walking down a corridor in an airport pushing a cart, and I say to him, "Hey, Jack, jump on the cart, I'll push you around, it'll be great fun." This is the kid who very solemnly points to the little picture of the kid with the big red X through it, says, no way, it's against the rules. This is also a kid who's massively competitive. I don't mean in a way that all 6-year-olds prefer winning to losing. I mean in a way that when he is seized by it, he doesn't quite know what to do with himself. It's like a physical force. He's watching his favorite football team on TV and they start to lose, and he starts to squirm and twist in his chair, and after a while he just gets so angst up about it he has to jump up and bury his head in the cushions next door. Jack isn't going to grow out of it. He's going to have that same craving to win from 8 to 88. His dreams will change, his skills will change, his values will change, his beliefs will change, but the core of him, the strongest parts of his personality are going to remain the same, and so will yours. And that's okay. But of course what that means is that you need to get really good at describing what your strengths are. If your strengths don't change much during the course of your life, you need to become really specific at describing what they are. And most of us, frankly, are just terrible at that. You ask people in job interviews, what are your strengths? And people dance around and around that question and end up with vague, bland answers like, I'm good with people. I like making things happen. I'm a numbers guy. Well, no one's going to be impressed with that. If you're going to really push your time toward your strengths in life or in work, you've got to get much more specific than that. Now, you've been raised to believe that your strengths are what you're good at and your weaknesses are what you're bad at. But that's not true, is it really? Come on, think about it. You've got some stuff that you're good at that you hate. I mean, you're good at it, so people ask you to do it. In fact, they rely on you to do it, and maybe they've even pigeonholed you into doing it. But if you never had to do it again, it'd be too soon. What would you call that? I mean, I once had a friend who was a brilliant swimmer. At the age of 7, a lifeguard had seen him swimming in the sea, freestyle, told his parents had put him on a swim team, and all the way through school, he practiced and practiced. He did lap upon lap, swimming in the mornings, last thing at night, and he got on the swim team and he won meet after meet, broke record after record, and he hated it. In fact, he hated swim meets so much, he'd get crushing migraines before every one. What do you call that? What do you call that when nature's blessed you with a ton of ability and given you no appetite at all? Where you're brilliant at something and it bores you to tears. What do you call that? Well, you call that a weakness. A weakness is any activity that leaves you weaker after you've done it. Doesn't matter how good you are at it. If it leaves you weaker after you've done it, it's a weakness. And of course, a strength is the opposite. A strength, your strengths, are those activities that leave you feeling strong. Those things that you do that make you feel strong. You need to pay incredibly close attention to how you feel before, during, and after an activity, because your feelings will give you a clue to what your strengths are. If before you do an activity, you actually find yourself looking forward to it, it's a strength. If while you're doing it, you find that you're in the zone, time flies by, you can totally concentrate, it's a strength. If after you're done with it, you feel fulfilled, it's a strength. Not fulfilled as in, thank goodness that's over, but fulfilled as in jazzed or jacked up. That's a strength. Now, to discover what your strengths are then, you don't need someone to tell you what they are. You don't need to take a test. You can find out what your strengths are in a regular week of life. Here's what you should do. Just try this. Take a pad around with you for a week, and anytime you find yourself actually looking forward to doing something, doesn't matter what it is, anytime you find yourself actually looking forward to doing something, scribble it down. Anytime when you're doing something, you find yourself just really in the zone, stop for a minute, scribble it down. Anytime when you're done with something, you feel jacked up and enthused, scribble it down. Don't wait until the end of the day. Don't wait until the end of the week and try and recreate it. You'll end up being way too vague. Do it in the moment. And don't write stuff down that other people are doing to you. Don't write down, I felt strong when my manager praised me. That's the manager doing it to you. Write down stuff you're doing. Don't judge it, just write it down. Verbs, stuff you're doing. I felt strong when I helped my mom understand that point I was trying to make. I felt strong when I cleaned up my room. I felt strong when I was retiling the bathroom. Doesn't really matter what it was. Just write it down. If you feel strong before, during, and after it, scribble it down. And then at the end of the week, what you'll find is you'll have a long list of activities. Well, scan that list and pick the 3 that really leap out at you. Those are your strengths. And then when people ask you about your strengths in job interviews or in the work situation, or when you're trying to think about what you're going to do with your life, look at those 3 activities, talk about those 3 activities. Use phrases like, I'm at my best when, or I feel strong when, and then describe exactly what you wrote down. Be specific, be vivid. Now, other people are going to try and tell you that they know your strengths better than you do. Your parents, your teachers, your managers, but they don't. They may know how to judge your performance better than you, but you know better than anyone else what intrigues you and what doesn't, what you're really interested in and what bores you, what strengthens you and what weakens you. You know that better than anyone else, and those are your true strengths. So learn how to describe them, own them, because those strengths are going to be what drives your performance.